All right, today is about finding angle measures. We're using parallel lines, this is kind of a special case scenario. We're looking at angles with parallel lines. So last time we talked about what is a transversal, and if you recall, I said the transversal is a line. It's this line right here. It's the one that cuts through two items. These are not transversals because going this way, they only have one point of intersection. Okay. So these are all rules whenever we have parallel lines, we're looking at their angles. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the resulting angles are either congruent or supplementary. These are the ones that are congruent. We have vertical angles. Those are always congruent with two intersecting lines. So even with parallel lines, and they are also congruent. Alternate interior angles like 5 and 3 or 4 and 6. Those will be congruent. Alternate exterior angles like 8 and 2, 7 and 1. Those will also be congruent. Also corresponding angles, meaning you remember if we trap this in a box, they're in the same spot in the box. So 5 and 1, 7 and 3, 6 and 2, 8 and 4. Those are all congruent angles. And these are the ones that are going to be supplementary, meaning equal to 180 degrees. All of these. Consecutive interior angles. These pairs will always equal 180 degrees if we have parallel lines. These pairs right here will always equal 180 degrees if we have parallel lines. Also, any set of linear pairs like 2 and 3, 1 and 2, 1 and 4, or 4 and 3. Okay, any set of those linear pairs will be supplementary. Same thing goes down for this group right here, 5 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 8, and 8 and 5. All right. So let's use the figure to find the missing angle. Do we have parallel lines? Yes, we do. These little symbols right here tell us that they are parallel. Oftentimes you'll see them written as that as well. Those are all parallel lines. I don't know what that is all about, but let's keep moving. So we have two sets of parallel lines with transversals. We have one group over here that's going to follow one set of rules, and then we have another group over here. Okay? Because these middle two lines are the parallel lines, and it looks like we have two transversals. So, given that the measure of angle 6 is 125, so this one's 125, and 14 is 86. We want to find the rest of the angles, and we can do this because these are parallel. Okay, so everything that we just talked about must be true in this group over here and for this group over here. So the measure of angle 1 right here, how is it going to compare to this 6 right here? Well, we know that 1 is going to be the same, 1 is going to be congruent to its corresponding angle, and we know that 5 and 6 are a linear pair. So if 6 is 125, 5 must be, 180 minus 125, which is 55 degrees. So since these are parallel lines, then these corresponding angles must be congruent, which means 1 must also be 55 degrees. Okay, angle 5, like we just got through saying, is 55 degrees. Angle 2 is going to be a linear pair, but also it's corresponding with 6. So 2 must also be 125 degrees. 3 must be congruent to 1 because they're vertical angles, so 55 degrees. 7 is a linear pair with 6, or it's vertical angles with 5, so it must be congruent to 5, which is 55 degrees. Let's go with 4. 4 is a vertical angles with 2, so that must be 125. And 8 is vertical angles with 6, so that must also be 125. Let's try this section over here. So we know that 14 is 86 degrees. So what is its linear pair? Its linear pair will be 94 degrees. We know that one right away. So let's look at measure of angle 9. Measure of angle 9. Well, I know that 14 is corresponding with 10, so I know 10 is going to be 86. And I know that these two are linear pairs, so I know that 9 will be 94. So 94 degrees. Or I could have said that these are opposite opposite exterior opposite exterior angles. And those are also congruent. So 13 is vertical angles with 16, which is 94. 10 is a linear pair with this one, or it's corresponding with 14, so it's 86. 11 is verticals with 10. 15 is verticals with 14. 12 is corresponding with 16. And 16 is a linear pair with 14. Oops. All right. Here we go. How you doing? Keep it moving. Find measure of angle 1 in each figure. The hint is to add a parallel line that goes through the vertex of the angle. We're going to add a parallel line that goes through the vertex of the angle. What does that mean? It means you're going to add a parallel line right here. You're going to add a parallel line right here. Okay? And here's what that means. Is we have two sets of rules again. So we have these angles that correspond with these angles, and then these angles correspond with these angles. Okay? So it actually allows us to create another set of rules. These angles right here are corresponding with these angles up here, but then these angles down here are corresponding with these angles down here. Do you see how that works out? So let's do it. All right. Since these are corresponding, I know this one will be 50 degrees. And these are corresponding, and I know these are a linear pair, so this must be 80 degrees, which means that this must be 80 degrees as well. So this together is 130 degrees that equals the measure of angle 1. All right. Also, we have moved. Whoopsie daisies. All right. So I know that this is going to be a vertical angle with this one, and then this one and this one will be corresponding. I'm going to redraw this. Once again, this is a vertical angle with this one, so this one is 62, and then these are corresponding. So this piece is 62 degrees. And I know that this and this must be linear pairs, so this one has to be, what's that, 36 degrees? And these are corresponding, so this piece must be 36 degrees. So angle 1 as a whole must be, 98 degrees. So the measure of angle 1 equals 98 degrees. Sound good? All right, moving on. How you doing? Keep it moving. Parallel lines often occur in patterns. That is true. So don't let these patterns confuse you. Look for transversals and parallel lines in drawings below. Notice that the angles that you asked to find are always congruent or supplementary. Remember, supplements add up to 180. Congruent means the same, so you can say that the measures are equal. So the cross braces are often used in framing of a house. This is all true. If you break down your walls, you'll see this behind it. Sometimes you'll see this as well with like cross braces like that. All right. In the drawing of the house below, what is the value of the angle of B? Well, this angle B right here, let's see, this one says it's 128 degrees. This whole angle right here is 128 degrees. So we know that these two, this one and this one, are what? These two are supplements of each other. So we know that this angle right here is going to be 52 degrees. Yes, 52 degrees. Then we have verticals. Then we have opposite interiors. Then we have verticals again. Or we have corresponding, like that. Or we have opposite exterior. So B, the measure of angle B, must be equal to 52 degrees. All right. What about this one over here? We have W, we have V. We know that V is 60. So what's true about W? If V is 60, these are parallel lines. Here's our transversal. These are opposite interior. So the measure of angle W must also be 60 degrees. How you doing? Keep it moving. In the diagram, WE, this one right here, is parallel to OT, which is this one right here. So we're going to mark our little lines here. The measure of IUP is 40 degrees. And the measure of UPE, this one right here, is 100 degrees. What is the measure of IUO? It wants to know what this measure is. Well, what's true? These are parallel lines. Great. This happens to be a transversal. Great. These are opposite. This whole angle together is an opposite interior angle with this one. So this whole angle must equal 100 degrees. But we know that this portion of it is 40. So we know that this portion of it is 60 degrees. All right. So we know that the measure of angle IUO is equal to 60 degrees. In the diagram, AB is parallel to DC, and AB is parallel to DC, and AD is parallel to BC. If angle A is 118 degrees, what are the measures of angle B, C, and D? Well, let's add transversals to this and let's see. So we know that these two angles right here must be supplements of each other. So we know that this one is going to be 62 degrees. We also know that these two must be supplements of each other because these two lines are parallel and this is our transversal. So this one is also 62 degrees, which means that these two must also be supplements of each other. So this one is also 118 degrees. Now we can make a new rule that says in a parallelogram, which is exactly what this is, a parallelogram, because all sides are parallel to the opposite sides, opposite interior angles are congruent. You will be able to use that for shapes later on. So the measure of angle B is going to be 62. The measure of angle C is going to be 118. And D is also 62. Let's keep her moving. Number 5. Number 5 says, find the value of the variables in each one. We know that these two are opposite exterior angles, and they must be congruent since we have parallel lines here. So I know that x minus 10 is going to equal to 104. I add 10 to both sides to find out what my x is, and my x is going to be equal to 114. I don't need a degree symbol because it's the value of x and not an angle. Number 6, I know that these are going to be opposite interior angles, so they must be equal to each other. So I have 2x minus 15 is equal to x plus 55. I'm going to move this x over. I'm going to move this 15 over. This will become 70. This will become x, and x is equal to 70. Once again, no degree symbol because it's not an angle. It is just a variable. All right, this next one we have, we have parallel lines with a transversal. Right here is our transversal. We know that these two are going to be supplements of each other. So when I add those two together, that will give me 180 degrees. But I need to find x first. Let's see here. I know that, this one will also be a transversal here. And I know that these are going to be supplements here. So x is automatically equal to 60 degrees. And I can plug in, this one happens, x is equal to 60. This one happens to be a degree. So I plug in a 60 here, and that gives me 180 minus 70 plus 3y plus 40 is equal to 180. I do my math, and I get y is equal to 10. I'm going to say that again. 3y plus 40 plus 3x minus 70 is equal to 180. I know that x is 60, so I plug that in. plug in my values, and I get y is equal to 10.